we look at everything so that we slow down this aging process. How do we age? This is a great picture of a guy you might have seen it before, who is a fellow who's a truck driver. And this is the side that was exposed to the sun. And this is the side that's not exposed to the sun. So how does aging happen? We have programmed death that is genetic. So our cells are programmed to die after a period of time. But we can accelerate that aging process through accidents, harmful environments. Maggie, you were mentioning before we started that the chemicals that we're exposed to, there's so much preservatives out there and fertilizers and pesticides that get into the foods we eat and our bodies are exposed to that induce free radical stress on our body, and that induces disease. In addition to that, we ended up having a poor maintenance system, like we were talking about regarding our cars. We'll take care of our cars, but we don't always do the best for our bodies. And that leads to cellular damage and poor cellular metabolism. Metabolism is how our cells take in nutrients and utilize that to provide nutrients and efficiency for it to balance and get rid of waste. So again, poor nutrition leads to poor microbes, which we're going to be adding into this lecture today. We're going to be talking about the microbes. And the question is it the chicken or the egg? Did we start with bad microbes, bad bacteria in our gut and develop diseases? Or did we develop a poor diet and that lead to actually disease states because we ate bad bacteria that led to a disease state? It's kind of both of these phenomena, because if your mother didn't have you naturally, maybe she couldn't, and she didn't breastfeed you, your gut biome maybe not be the healthiest and predispose you to various diseases that we talked about when we went through the gut biome, the more in detail gut biome lecture. And again, you guys have access to that and you can rewatch it. Again, poor sleep. We talked about in 2017, the Nobel Prize winner who did the science behind sleep and sleep disorders. In that lecture, we talked about the significance of our bodies falling in line with the rising and setting of the sun. That's how God designed us. And when we don't understand that we need to be sleeping by 11, no later than 11, we should be going to bed at 10, allowing our brains and our bodies to relax so that we're asleep no later than 11, that when we delay that process, it causes harm and stress to our systems. And it disrupts the natural hormone release in our body that we're normally meant to have. Inadequate or too much activity. The marathon runner who drops dead and is thin and active, he looks healthy, but internally he's got too many free radicals going on from that stress of exercise. But not moving and not exercising, maybe we've had injury, but you've got to force yourself to get up, not just rely on the physical therapy. You've got to get yourself doing activities as well. You know, the little bits that you can do in the chair safely or move safely, you need to do those and continue to do those because they're very important to maintenance, this slowing down the aging process and the disease state. And then this is our spirituality. Remember, we have those 5 keys. And the fourth one is spirituality. It's where does God need me? Where is God directing my life? What is the purpose that I have? We should always be asking ourselves a question, you know, so that we're constantly realigning ourselves with that purpose-driven life. So as you see, this gentleman's face is aging because of sun exposure, and excess sun exposure leads to free radicals to the skin, causing him to age. That can happen to our bodies when we don't do sleep, exercise, nutrition, spirituality. Our brains can age, our gut can age. That leads to all sorts of systemic diseases in our body, joints, organs, muscles. So this is exactly what's happening inside your body, where your body could be looking like this. Just because we're getting older, it doesn't mean we have to age rapidly. Remember, the causes can be, we do have a programmed time of death, but we can accelerate that when we don't maximize the care to our body. So you don't want the inside of you to look like this, okay? So one thing that I want you to understand is you do know, as we've talked about free radicals and low vitamin D and sick fat and understanding how hyperinsulinemia and high blood sugars and high levels of fructose in our body, including high levels of taking in too much fruit, causes insulin to go up, causes our liver to become fatty, and that leads to disease. And when we eliminate those things and we change our diet, we exercise, we actually end up improving disease. How do we slow down aging? Well, it's pretty much the same thing. Aging is related to the disease. And as we treat each one of these diseases, we treat the whole body. And we treat the whole body in a holistic approach. And that's the reason why we do nutrition, exercise, sleep, spirituality, and community. And we always bring that back into the picture so that we're not just fixing your autoimmune disease that you may be seeing me for, or your obesity or your diabetes, but we look at everything so that we slow down this aging process. So we're talking about aging. Centenarians are people who are 100 and plus, and they have a unique microbiome, believe it or not. Microbiome is diverse. They're despite their age. And as we age, if we don't maintain that healthy vegetable diet, and that's why I push so many vegetables, the starchy, the non-starchy, and cutting down on the protein, because we know high protein diets are associated with aging. So what we know is that diversity comes from all those herbs and all those vegetables. It helps maintain that diverse biome. And these older people, this gentleman fought in Normandy. We were at an event he spoke at in Normandy, and he's a veteran. And here's a friend of mine who worked at the VA, and her mother was having her 100th birthday, and her purpose in life after she took care of her children was to take care of the poor. So she would make about 50 to 100 turkeys for the 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, and she'd feed the poor. And she's done that all the way up till Thanksgiving of 2020, when we had COVID. So she was an amazing person, but she had a purpose for her life. I think we've all talked about ikigai. The Japanese culture have that purpose-driven life, and they use that term ikigai as, what is my purpose? Once I took care of my children and I didn't work anymore, what is my purpose in society to better society? We all should have that purpose, because that's what helps us get out of bed and make a difference. And right now, that purpose might be your children, might be your spouse, might be your work, but you should always have a purpose greater than yourself. Remember, our gifts of life are really to others, and that's when we find so much more fulfilling life, is when we do for others, and you have more of a driven purpose. The gut actually also counteracts age-related processes. So when we have this diverse biome, it actually fights the aging process, and this is what's keeping these people older and healthy. Now, this beautiful lady right here, up in the right corner, you guys all know Emma. And right next to our beautiful Emma is her amazing mother. And here was her 100th birthday. And so she is phenomenal. And she does like her vegetables, and she does love her sleep. And she does like her glass of wine, but she doesn't have obesity. She eats very minimally, but very diversely. And she's living a great life. This diverse biome is anti-inflammatory and provides antioxidation. Remember, oxidative stress, if we talk about that quickly and briefly, oxidative stress is when you take in glucose. Remember, it's made of carbons, hydrogens, and oxygen. And that goes into the cell. When insulin hits the button on the door, glucose goes into the cell. And when your body needs to make energy, it combusts or pulls apart those carbon, hydrogen, oxygen molecules to make ATP. And then those molecules turn into water, H2O, and CO2, which we blow out. But every once in a while, one of those oxygen molecules doesn't get attached to the hydrogen in water or the carbon in CO2, and it becomes this dynamic free radical. And it's very unhappy, and it wants to pull on things. And it starts pulling on the lining of our vessels, making narrow vessels. It pulls on our DNA, making it more unstable to convert into potential cancers. It disrupts receptors like the door to open up the cell. So it creates a lot of unstable behavior that leads to disease. But when we have a diverse, healthy gut biome, they fight and become antioxidants to these free radicals. And that's the reason why we eat this antioxidant or anti-inflammatory diet, because it helps our biome and helps feed our biome so that the biome slows down the activation of the immune system and the formation of those free radicals that then cause havoc on our system. So age-defying practices. We've all done this, and I encourage us all the time. We don't need as many calories as our nutritional platforms tell us. There's studies after studies that are proving that over and over again. So these extended fasts are helpful. Maximizing sleep, as we talked about. Making sure you're exercising. And as we age, stretching is very, very important. So if you have your muscle and on top, on the either side of the muscle, you have tendons and they attach to the bones. But if you end up injuring a tendon or a muscle on one side and you don't stretch it back out as it's healing, then you're going to this side is going to be shorter and this tendon's going to be longer. And now you constantly have problems on that right side of your body. And then it seems like every time I get injured, it's always the right side of my body. Well, that's because you never even things out when you had the original injury. And then one injury led to another. And now that one side seems more lopsided, or the one side that gets injured. So make sure you take the time in stretching. And if you go back to the exercise lecture, we talk about 4 key types of exercise. And I ask you when I talk to you independently, you want to make sure you're doing weight training, cardiovascular, stretching, and plyometrics. Plyometrics is those rapid burst exercises to make sure we're not only strengthening and building rapid muscles and bulk muscles and those fast twitch fibers, but we're elongating the tendons while we're doing it. So very important to understand the dynamics of that. Remember, vitamin D. Vitamin D is not just for calcium absorption. Remember, we know that it helps our immune system. You guys know that it increases muscle contractility, but believe it or not, it also helps maintain a healthy cartilage and helps our brain and everything else. So make sure you're getting those vitamin D levels done, not just taking vitamin D so you know what the healthy level range is. Other things that we're going to be talking about is metformin, resveratrol, which is a non-flavonoid polyphenol, and then flavonoids. So non-flavonoids and flavonoids, all 3 things are very important in anti-aging. So many of you that are taking metformin for diabetes, don't stop taking it, because there are a lot of things you're going to be learning in the next couple slides about the power of what metformin does. Resveratrol, we're going to be talking about is in pistachios, blueberries, grapes, soy, and some other things we're going to talk about. And flavonoids, some of you are on quercetin, but teas, green, black, and white teas, citrus, leafy greens, kale, spinach, broccoli, onions, soy. Remember, always eat organic soy, because non-organic soys have been sprayed with lots of all sorts of chemicals inducing free radicals. So if you eat soy, soy is wonderful for fighting breast cancer. It fights prostate cancer, but it has to be organic. Cherries. So we want to maximize your gut biome and maximize your life by developing that diverse gut biome to enhance longevity. So here is an example of a flavonoid that came from my own yard. We're growing these wonderful fruits. Do you guys know what these are? Mm-hmm. These are dragon fruits. They look like a dragon.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And if you eat them at the grocery store, they're not sweet. If you eat the ones that grow in my garden, I was surprised when I ate it for the first time today. So this was a quick pop-in slide. It was actually kind of sweet. Now, the yellow dragon fruit are sweeter than the red ones, but amazing when you grow them in your yard. And we can grow them in Florida, so you guys can grow them, but put them in a pots, because we have some that are growing. You can see them at a distance way back there in the garden. They're not in pots, and so you don't have the pretty fruit that come up. But they're antioxidants, they're fat-free, high in fiber, they lower your sugars, and they have probiotics. Do you guys remember what probiotics are? Probiotics feed the gut biome so that our gut biome can produce those basically short-chain fatty acids, those postbiotics that decrease inflammation in our bodies.